And we're live. All right. How is everyone doing? Gotta get. Oh, I have to log back in. I've been logged out. Disaster. Total and utter disaster. Two-factor authentication. Oh my god. Who does this? Who does this two-factor authentication? What a disaster. Alright, let's go to my channel. Let's update my title, because I never do that. Oh my god. Stop, stop, stop. Why? Mute. Will not let me get that. Okay, sure. Okay, great. Glad that happened. Yes, I'm playing you ads without letting you see them. Just for fun. So we're gonna chill a little bit because I want to wait for just a few minutes. Just take it easy, relax. We're gonna be going over some cool stuff today. Got my large Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Feels good. Feels good to be all caffeinated up. Kyle, how's your day going? How's your weekend going? Oh god. No, it's just the code. Lonely water. Lonely water, won't you? Let us wander. Okay. There's a lot of people playing right now. Maybe I should do a show. I could do a show. No, let's stick to this. Kyle, it's your choice. Interesting Scandinavian. I have very little respect for the Scandinavian, but I appreciate that. It's very solid. Kyle, it's your choice. Do you want to look at stuff on open files or stuff on changing the pawn structure? I have two things prepared. We can do open files or we can do changing the pawn structure. Pawn structure? Okay. I think this is my first game. Okay, so this is something I've been working on with my coach, who's a grandmaster, Alex Strapansky. So this is a little bit high level, but I mean it's important to understand these sorts of ideas of how the pawn structure affects the play and stuff like that. So this is a game between Strapunski and Shetty, and we'll quickly run through this here. So we see some sort of King's English here with c4, e5. Some people call this the reverse Sicilian, which makes sense because it's a reverse Sicilian. So here, already there's some interesting stuff that happens early in the game. E3, knight f6. And here the white player goes queen b3, which is an interesting move that sort of feels a little bit weird. But let me ask you, why did white go queen b3 here? What's the point? And it has to do with structure and pawn structure. Why is queen b3 played here? What's the idea behind queen b3? Why not develop another piece? Why not do something normal? Because like white could go knight f3, right? But instead he chose queen b3. A little crazy, I know. Hello to anyone just joining us. We're looking at games where we modify the pawn structure. Oh, I didn't save. 1 second. I was changing the title. And we're wondering, why did white go queen b3? Unsure? It seems like we're unsure. So, let me ask, how does queen b3 help you play f4? Why is queen b3 beneficial to playing f4? So here, the idea behind queen b3, it's not related to f4, because f4, like, you don't have to play queen b3 if you want to go f4, right? If I really want, I could go f4 right now, although I don't think it's a good move. I would probably go knight e2 and then f4. But the point is, so black just played knight f6, right? And the knight on f6 supports two central squares. So what black wants to do is black wants to go d5. The knight on f6 supports this d5 push. So what white is doing is white is saying, no d5. You don't get to play d5. Because now, if black goes d5, it's just it loses a pawn. I'll take out the queen, right? And you lose a pawn. So this is no good. So the idea of queen b3 is to prevent black from going d5. Okay. g6, d3, bishop g7. And now, again, white makes an interesting decision here. White goes g3. It might seem a little weird going e3 and g3. But the reason white goes g3 here is that this knight is going to go to e2, which means that e2 square is not available for the bishop, so the bishop needs his own square. That's why g3 is played. b6, bishop g2, bishop b7. We're speeding along because this isn't super critical stuff. Excuse me, I felt like I need to sneeze there. Oh, God. Knight f3, castles, castles, queen e7. And here, white, again, has a pretty big decision to make. So what would you play as white in this position? Leo Kyle says, white can go knight a5 and push the queen back, which is true. I'll go back to that moment. But if black goes knight a5, here's sort of the point. Now I go queen c2. And I'm going to say, why is your knight on a5? Your knight is ridiculous on a5. Or I can even go queen a4 and say, no, really, why is your knight on a5? And either way, I think white sort of wins a tempo. Because the knight is so poorly placed on a5. Like, the knight really doesn't want to be on a5. On queen c2, maybe you can go d5 and have a vaguely normal position. But even here, the knight is not where it's supposed to be. But yeah, I think queen a4 is more direct, saying, well, why'd you put your knight out here? Okay. Let's go back to this position. It's white to play. It's a good question, though. Why doesn't knight a5 make sense there? Kyle Kuber says e4. e4 is correct. e4 is absolutely correct. And it has 2 points. First off, as Kyle pointed out, we want to open our bishop. Because this bishop is very, very sad. But secondly, Black just played the move queen e7. And what Black is hinting at with this move queen e7 is Black saying, I want to go e4. I have enough defenders to play e4 right now. And that's going to be a little bit problematic for you if I get to play e4. So white, in playing e4, does 2 things. He opens up his bishop, and he says, Black, you're not going to play e4. However, this move is pretty double-edged because he's giving up control of the d4 square. So this is a huge outpost for the black knight to jump into at some point. d6 played. The bishop comes out as planned. Unpin. Our knight jumps in. Notice that if the queen doesn't move, then knight d5 starts to be a total disaster. So queen e7, knight d5, knight e8. Taking is very bad here. If you take this knight, I'll take like this, and this knight is very sad. The knight probably has to come in, but here all you have are weaknesses. This is weak, and your position's a total disaster. And so this would not be playable. So that's why the knight retreats, knight e8, queen a4, putting pressure again against the queen. a6. Note that this pawn is also pressure, so the rook can't really move. black is a little bit tied down already. Rook d1, h6, bishop e3, we have to retreat our bishop, but the bishop goes to a nice diagonal. This pawn got weakened a little bit. b5. Okay, decision time. What does white play here? It's these moments where the structure is in question, right? There's pawn tension, and these are the moments you have to spend time on. What should white play here? These moments with pawn tension are so important. The structure is about to be decided. You have to spend time. Leo Kale says queen b3. Queen b3 is a good move. It's not what it was played, but it's it is a so knight b6. Knight b6. So knight b6 is cute, right? And you're saying if you take my queen, I'll take your queen. Problem with knight b6 is I take your knight, right? And you're like, oh, I guess I lose a piece. So knight b6 doesn't work. Here, queen b3 is the right idea. White played queen c2, which is similar. But the point is, you don't want to take. That's really the point. Because if you take, you open up the rook for black. So it's very important that you don't take this b5 pawn. You just calmly drop your queen back. I think queen b3 is equally good, but the white player chose to go to c2 instead. Both seem fine to me. Okay, so queen c2 played. A logical decision. Now, black jumps in. This was coming no matter whether the queen went here or here. Takes. Oh my god. I've gone to the end of the game. Alright, let's go back. Queen b3, knight d4 takes. The bishop has to move again. Note that this bishop supports the pawn on d4. King h7. Rook c1. Now we're prepared to take this because the c7 pawn would be hanging. Knight f6. And again, critical moment. What do we do here? Music Dan quoting the old adage, to take is a mistake. In that case, it was true. Taking on b5 would be a mistake. Leo Kale, what's your idea behind a3? Are you preventing black from going b4? You're preventing? Oh, so I see your idea. Well, Leo Kale's thinking about playing a3, and his point is he wants to take this pawn without this a2 pawn being hanging. That's an idea. White has something a little bit more forceful here, and a little bit stronger. I don't think a3 is a bad move, but it's not taking full advantage of the opportunities being presented to you. This one's tricky, I will say. This one's a tricky puzzle. Bishop a5, putting more pressure on the c7 pawn. So let's look. Bishop a5. I wonder, can I just go like c6 and say shoo? Get out of my house? Get away, get away, get away? Get that knight out of my face? Although I will say the one thing about c6 is this bishop is really sad about the move c6. That's what I'll say. So I'm not thrilled to play that move. But oh no, that's a bad idea. Yeah, but here it's not so clear. In fact, if you're not careful, something nasty could happen to you. I'm looking at this continuation with c5 and b4, and all of a sudden this bishop has maybe landed itself in a little bit of trouble. I think bishop a5 I can sort of wriggle. Don't let me wriggle. You have something strong here that doesn't let me wriggle. c6, knight b6. What am I missing? Let me see. Ooh, that would be problematic, yes. Although even here, knight b6, queen c7. It's not totally clear. Although you can probably play something very slow like this. This is sharp. Maybe I don't want to do that. My point is, if you take, I grab the bishop, and then the knight is trapped on a8. That's very sharp. I'll give you that. But okay, I could also do this, right? And just say, if you're not taking this pawn, the bishop on a5 doesn't do a whole lot. I'll show what the white player did, because I think what the white player did is very, very instructive. And strong. So, the white player did something that looks very strange at first sight. But it's very, very strong. Took on f6. Which seems like not the right decision. You're like, you have this monster knight, and you're giving it up for this thing over here on f6. But he actually has an idea associated with this. And here, he makes his idea known. c5. Incredibly strong move. I've got two heavies lined up on the c file. I'm going to make sure the c file opens. But I'm going to make sure the c file opens in a way that does not open the a file for your rook. The c file is going to open on my terms, not the way that that you want. If white can also take, but here black gets vague counterplay. Not with this move, because then this is too painful. But after cb5 defends, here white has to defend the a pawn. And now black has ideas of going c4 at some point, c4, d3, undermining this pawn. I'm not saying black isn't worse. Black is clearly worse here. But I think this idea is elegant, of opening the c file without allowing counterplay. So black took. It's hard for black to leave this this pawn here because c6 is a threat. So you can't just allow me to play c6. You have to take this. Queen takes, and now we see this pawn is backwards. I have pressure down the c line. Maybe now I'll go bishop a5, introduce more pressure. I even have ideas of e5 at the right moment. This pawn is loose. So black is just positionally sort of in shambles here. Black has to play rook fc8. If you bring the a rook, that doesn't look fun. And this is cute. c5, introducing defender. Hey, remember that idea I had? Boom. Hit. I win a piece. Because the queen is pinned across the 7th. So you must bring the f rook. And now I just play slow. I'll bring my last piece to the party, right? I like all my pieces. We'll go through the rest of the game fairly quickly because this idea of structural transformation, there's not many more structural transformations here. Bishop e7. White finds something cute here, although it's probably not super necessary. White goes bishop h3. And white is welcoming the endgame because these pawns will be forever weak in the ending. And black will have no counter chances. So takes. White here, it's a desperado tactic. Both bishops are hanging, so white wins a pawn for his. Although, I might not even play this, to be quite honest, because you do open the A file, but you're winning a lot of stuff here, so, I mean, it's probably fine. Yeah, here, black has to go c6. If he takes the pawn, that's a fork, and it's not pretty. It's really not pretty. So, black went c6 here, not taking the pawn. And now a3, white's up a clean pawn. Black's position is very weak. There are opposite colored bishops, so it takes a little bit of work here. But this should be winning. g4 is a nice move, gaining space on the king side. Always want that space in the ending. White's putting all his pawns on light to limit black's bishop. We'll just run through this. It's a lot of maneuvering. White doesn't have to do anything quickly. Attacking the weakness. Slowly improving. f5 is sort of desperate from black, trying to get some counterplay. But white just says, okay, f5, I don't care. I'm going to break down this structure, create more weaknesses. Now there's a passed a pawn you have to worry about. That's no fun. Here comes my a pawn. Here comes my a pawn. And here, black resigned. You can't really stop my a pawn. It's just not going to happen. So I have too much going on here. And that's the game. So that's our first structural transformation game. Let's look at a second game. This is the game between Eckert and Strepansky. We'll be looking at our hero Strepansky from the black side. So we see some ready English, whatever you call this. I'm not super familiar with these structures. And we get a position that looks normal for both sides. Here white plays this move b3. b3 is interesting. White can play d4, and it actually transposes to a semi-Slav. So what white is saying by playing the move b3, white's saying, I don't want to play a semi-Slav. I want to play something interesting that's not a semi-Slav. Me, myself, I would play d4 because I like semi-Slavs. But white's saying, no semi-Slav. And now, black plays this interesting move, a6. So I ask, what's the point behind this move a6? Why did black play a6? Because the white player totally missed this idea. Missed the point of a6. Yes, rook a7. The powerful rook lift guarding across the 7th rank. So it's true he's creating a lot of dark square weaknesses, but like a6 doesn't develop, doesn't really control the center. Like instead of ace, like why doesn't he play like a normal move, right? Why doesn't he play this? What's the point of a6? Why does it actually do anything constructive for the position? Because you just told me why it's not bad, but you didn't tell me why it's good. So, Kyle's hit a little bit on the main point. This move is designed to clamp down on the b5 square, and we'll see why this is important. So bishop b2, bishop d6, and here white really needs to sense the danger, which he didn't. White played queen c2, and this allows black's main idea. So what has black been playing for here? What does he play? This is the point of black's play. I think it's really interesting what he's done here. So b5 here is probably not good, because white is actually very solid on the c4 square. b5 is not black's idea. c5 is interesting, and the thing about c5 is it might not be amazing, because here I will take and go d4. And the problem is you're going to end up with an isolated queen pawn here, which is not really what you want. So c5 would be a poor structural transformation, because after takes, e takes, d4, black will get the isolated queen pawn, and he really doesn't have good compensation for it. It would not be a good isolated queen pawn. So c5 is interesting, but not quite the idea. Knight e4, it's just a pawn, right? I like pawns. Nom nom. I'll eat them. I'll eat the pawns. Also, don't feel bad if you're for missing this, because I totally, when my coach showed me this, I totally missed the idea from black. And it's very strong. Black is looking to punish white for inaccurate opening play. By queen e2, I think you mean queen e7. How does that punish my inaccurate opening play? So, Black had a stronger idea. I'll show the idea. It's a difficult one to see. But we'll see why Black included the move a6. Black plays the very, very strong e5. e5 is his idea. And the move a6 was included to control this square, because after takes, knight b5 would be a problem here, hitting the bishop. But knight b5 is not playable, because knight b5 would win this pawn here. But knight b5 is unplayable because of the move a6. So Black gets an e5. Black is already better, actually, because white cannot really take. This pawn duo is just too strong. Black has total control of the center. So, after e5, white plays the best move, but it's a sad move to play. White plays d4, and now Black goes e4. And look, Black just took over the center. Black just steamrolled the center. And Black is already better. It's move 9, and Black is better. How sad is that? That's the sort of thing that like makes me cry as a white player when I'm just like worse on move 9. That's a very, very sad moment. Okay, so now white has to play for activity, because if he doesn't get activity, he has nothing. So he goes knight e5. Taking is probably not in Black's best interest. If you take and go knight fd7, then here white moves the knight, say knight e2. This knight will show up on a nice square. Maybe I can take at some point and try and play against this d5 pawn. This is not a great structural transformation when Black has this beautiful pawn chain that he wants to keep super solid here. So knight bd7 developing. White goes long. And let me ask, what would you play here as the Black player? Well, here's the thing. If you say you don't go knight e5, this like you're just lost in this position. This is like a losing position already. Because the problem for you is, as soon as you castle, I play bishop takes h7. Immediately. This position is just horrible for white. So knight e5 is like forced. Because otherwise you just lose. You have no compensation for anything. This bishop is stupid. This knight is stupid. This knight is stupid. This queen doesn't make any sense. All your pieces make literally 0 sense. So I castle. You go like bishop e2. You can't castle. You get mated. So it's just like, oh man. And at some point, I'll prepare f4, and you lose. So this is just horrible for white. He has to play actively with knight e5. What do we play here? Leo Kale says, castle short, absolutely, good move. Not falling for this one, where white gets massive compensation here. See, white has so much pressure on this pawn that white can actually get away with a little trick here. Boom! Hit you with that one. Bishop b2, queen b2, knight d5. Oh, didn't I mention you were in a pin? Yikes. Pin and win. Here, the problem is I'm gonna come crashing down on g7. It's gonna be a little unpleasant for you. And this bishop remains pinned as well. So this gives white more than he should get. White should have nothing in this position. All right. So instead of going for any of this silly business, black is already just statically better. Black just castles. He says none of this funny business. And now black is threatening to take on e5. And white has to continue to play actively. He's trying to break down the pawn chain. And here we go. Takes. Takes. White does some tactics. Knight e4. Let me ask. After knight e4, what would you play? Bishop takes bishop, forgetting what we've learned. Haven't we learned that to take is a mistake? Here, you've allowed me to put a lot of pressure. You're forced to play this move. And all of a sudden, that's a lot of pressure on the d5 pawn. So this is not really what you want. You can throw this in. I move my rook somewhere. This looks good. Now you have to move your queen. But where do you put your queen, right? This pawn just falls. So to take is a mistake. Knight e4, what do we do? Knight takes e5. I will grab this one. No, you don't have that. Your knight is under attack, it has to move. Where does it go? Here, that was highway robbery. I won your e4 pawn in broad daylight. Now you're not better. You might be worse. Queen e7 is the right idea. I think black did something slightly better. Black played rook e8. Just getting a new piece into the action. The rook on f8 was very sad. Queen e7 looks appealing because you're unpinning, right? But then after queen e7, here it's complicated. Here I do this, and this, and this. That's why he didn't want to go queen e7, because it looks like the center falls apart a little bit. So he went rook e8 instead. It's the right idea, queen e7, but he just did it with a different piece. Calculating is hard, man. I'm so bad at it, it's sort of baffling. Okay, white takes, because now stuff is starting to be hanging for white. Rook takes. And queen c3, putting pressure on the rook. Another critical moment What does black play? Rook takes knight. Absolutely. Of course rook takes knight. 100%. The best move in the position. Look at this. Tell me he's not worth a rook. Tell me that knight is not worth a rook. I will tell you you're lying. He is worth a rook. And by playing rook takes knight, I eliminate your f-pawn. You will never move this knight. He will never move. He is stuck on e4 for the rest of the game. Leo Kale has mentioned the move knight g4. Let's take a look. Knight g4. Knight g4? I take it. Oh, and then you take this. It's an interesting move. Knight g4. Knight g4. That's an interesting move. I will give you full credit for this. This is very, very interesting. Because it actually comes with this other threat. But okay, I move my knight. I move my knight. And you have too much stuff hanging, right? Yikes. Okay. I think, okay, so I think the one thing about this position is I get this with tempo. And you can't take this because I have bishop h7. So, I don't know, maybe white can argue that they're developing quickly. That's an interesting move, knight g4. I give you full credit. That's very interesting. How did it go at the Marshall? I played bad. I ended up with a score of 3.5 out of 8. Or I only played, one of those was a half-point buy, so I scored 3 out of 7, which is not very good. I wasn't happy with how I played. Yeah, knight g4 is interesting. Knight g4, h3. Here I can do this. And knight f2. It's unclear. It's definitely unclear. Okay, rook e4 was played, which I like a lot. The knight is really strong on e4. Knight g4 is really interesting, though. Queen has to move. Bishop g4, develop with tempo. Rook e1. Now, very important, you must play the correct move here. Otherwise, black has no advantage. So what's the move for black? It's an only move to play for advantage here. Excuse me. Queen h4 is not correct, but I won't tell you why, because telling you why would give you too much of a hint as to what the correct move is. dc4, what's your idea? dc4 is correct. What's your idea? So dc4 is correct, but you have to ask yourself, what's the source of Black's advantage? And the answer is, the source of Black's advantage is he has the most disgusting knight on the most disgusting outpost I've ever seen in chess history. So if White were to move, White would play bishop d3 and bishop takes knight. Boom. So Black says, hey buddy, you're not playing bishop d3. That's his idea. He just says, I'm never going to let you play the move bishop d3. And you're never going to be able to move this knight. It's just not going to happen. So bishop takes, if you play b takes, your position falls apart. b5, winning time. The bishop has to go back. Takes, takes. And look, I got rid of this bishop. That means you're never moving this knight. It's immovable. It's the strongest piece on the board. It's worth a rook. It's worth more than a rook. You're not moving him. Queen e7 played, getting the queen off the back rank. Maybe this coming. Hey guys, this was coming. c5. Rook d5. And you have to be careful here. White had an idea here. White's desperately trying to swap this knight off. So you have to pay attention. White's going for this. So rook e8, very alert, not allowing White his counterplay. Rook e1. White wants to double, but the rook was sort of stuck here on this awkward square where the knight was guarding. And now Black continues to play very, very actively, very strong chess. b4. Giving the knight a new outpost on c3. And sort of saying, you're not going to play this move, because then I'll give you the old forkaroni. So rook d3 was played, and sort of tempting Black to jump in, because here White would just grab this. And it's not clear that Black is much better in this position, if at all. So after rook d3, h6, rook e d1. Now he's doubled on the file. Again, if you jump in, I'll grab. Well, let me see if this works now. Because now you get this, but, oops. It's not clear that you're... Black is clearly better here. I will say black is clearly better here. After knight c3. Maybe white just does this, but that's a sad move to play. Because this rook ending doesn't look promising. Really doesn't look promising. Maybe king c2 here. But then your king is really open in a queen ending. Yeah, I don't like this at all. Even king b2 is interesting. King b2 is maybe playable. But okay. After rook d1, black didn't want to go for any of this. He says, I'm simply better here. I'll go a5. What are you going to do? King b1. Again, just tempting black. Tempting black to do this. But again, it's not necessarily so clear. Something like this, right? Yeah, black is a little better, but it's not sure. It's not a sure win. So here black finds something very nice. c4. Cracking it open. Cracking open the white king. You must take, or else I go c3 and you have problems. Knight c5. And this is very problematic for you. Because I'm threatening to play this move. Queen e4. And all my pieces come in. Queen c2, so white gives the exchange. And here, black accepts, but he's not going into the endgame. And this is the key. If white gets the rook ending, he might be okay. But black will not let him get the rook ending. So this would be a grave mistake. This rook ending, I mean, here you might have problems, actually. I might just go c8, right? Your king will get there. But, like, even here I can do this move, right? So black will never allow the rook ending. Instead, he plays the much more accurate a4. And black's just going to go b3 and rip you open. Queen d5. Hey, now you're not guarding that pawn. Now I'll take it. Now that I can take the pawn without allowing an ending. I love that. c5, he's trying to push his pawn. a3. Ooh. The truth hurts. That's a mating threat. Queen e6. Just stepping back. Notice that if black comes in here, white can just sort of kick you out. So queen e6 played. Idea is maybe a check here, followed by rooking. Queen grabs, check. If you go to the corner, what happens here? What happens here? Ah, I have this. So king c1 played, and rook c8, and here white resigned. He's just getting mated, really. The two pieces against the naked king are too much, so white threw in the towel. All right, let's look at our last structural game, or structure change game. This is a really interesting one, and this one I struggled with a lot when my coach showed it to me. But I think it's super, super instructive. And very, very difficult to find. There's one critical position that's like where my coach played a move where I'm like, oh my god, he's a genius. So this is the game Strapunski-Wheeler. Strapunski had the white pieces. We'll be looking at it from his perspective. And we see a French defense, a Tarrasch, a closed Tarrasch, and the what's called the big center variation, where white just looks to establish this nice center. Although we'll see that white doesn't play the most normal variation. Normally, white goes c3, and then we see knight c6. I think this is the most common one. This knight comes over here. There's some queen b6 stuff. There's some very complicated stuff here. It involves you take and you play bishop b4, and king f2 is forced, and then you go g5. And this is really, really sharp. It's been played quite a number of times. And the point is, black really has to break down this center. And we're not going to get into this too much because this is something I have to review my theory on because I don't know it well enough. But Strapunski plays a different variation. He plays knight gf3. And he's looking for the different sort of French, where he doesn't get the pawn center, but he gets the active piece play on the d4 square. So knight c6. And then here's sort of the point of this variation. White could still go c3 here, although he's put sort of the wrong knight on f3 to do that. So white goes for this knight b3 line, which is very interesting. White is immediately putting pressure here. And the main line of this position is to go c4, because you win a lot of time, and then black tries to go for a quick queenside play, whereas white's going to go for a quick f5. And, you know, this is typical French stuff. But instead of that, Strapunski's opponent played probably a worse move, which is to take. Now, let me ask, which knight would you take back with? The B knight. Why the B knight, Adamskion? Why the B knight, Leo Kale? So the B knight is correct. However, I'd like to point out, I really would like to take with the F knight, because the B knight is doing a very important job guarding this c5 square. So, for instance, this prevents the move bishop c5, which is black's sort of logical follow-up. The problem here is black has a very interesting move. Black can try and play this move. Or sorry, not this. You take Or no, you don't take, sorry. Oh god. If you take with the F knight, you might allow this silliness. And this is a little bit of silliness that maybe you don't want to allow, because all of a sudden this check lands, I get knight takes, I get bishop c5. Black is very active here. It's sort of like those variations where black just sacks a piece on the center and just gets incredibly active play. The engine probably refutes this. Let's see what the engine says. The engine says +1. +1 is a scary number when you're up a piece. If you're up a piece and you're +1, that's a scary position to play. He takes with the B knight to keep protection of this pawn. And now bishop c5, c3, and a5 played. Just not allowing this b4 to come and kick the pieces back. Bishop e3, queen b6, queen d2, he needs to protect this pawn, he's keeping some protection of the bishop here, and f6 from black. And this is a critical moment. This is a super critical moment, because black is threatening to destroy white's center, but black is opening the center with his king still in the middle, and this is a hyper critical moment. White must find the correct move here, and the correct move here is very, very strong. So what should white play? Because what you have to realize here is black is threatening to win this pawn. However, e6 is hanging. But if you take e6, your bishop on e3 is hanging. So there's a lot going on in this position. And Strapansky plays an incredible move in this position. Like, this move is so good. I can't even believe how good this move is. Let me ask this question. What sort of structure does white want here? Does white want to take? Does white want to maintain the pawn on e5? Or does white want to sacrifice the pawn on e5 for activity? Those are your three options. You can take on f6, you can maintain the pawn on e5, or you can sacrifice the pawn for activity. What would you do, just generally? In general, what does white want? White wants a pawnless structure. White wants to sacrifice the pawn for activity. I very much disagree that white wants to sacrifice the pawn for activity. And I strongly feel that if white can, white wants this pawn to stay here on e5. And the reason is, the pawn on e5 makes 4 of black's pieces useless. All of these pieces are useless while this pawn remains on e5. They're all totally useless. So if white can, he wants to find a way to maintain this pawn. However, that's very difficult, considering the pawn is attacked 3 times, defended twice, and it's very difficult to defend again. So that's why you have to find a brilliant move in this position. Well, it's a typical French idea. If the pawn stays on e5 for forever, black suffers. Black suffers severely from just a cramped position. So you have to find a way to maintain the e5 pawn. Which is very difficult. I'll give us 1 more minute, then I'll show us the idea. It's a good exercise to think about. You've seen this game before? That's sort of surprising, honestly. I had never seen this game before. My coach showed me this. It's his game. My coach is Strapunski. Bishop b5, I think is failing tactically. Let me see. So on bishop b5, this is sharp. I will give you that. So here you have to play this move. If you recapture, unfortunately I'm going to win a pawn in broad daylight here. The point is, if you take, I take back with the knight. And you're very sad, you've lost a pawn. So you have to take here. Oh, this is really sharp. What did I get myself into here? This is interesting. Bishop b5 is interesting. What if I do this? My point is, this bishop is hanging, but no, this is not what I want. Because now I'm sad as black. No, I'm not sad. I'm not sad at all. I'm happy as black. I'm very happy. So here you have to go bishop takes. Oh god. This is super sharp. I don't think this works. I'm gonna let the engine figure it out for me. Castles. Really? This doesn't work? Okay, that's looking decent for black. Bishop b5 looks like a decent move. What happens here? Takes, takes. Knight takes, bishop takes, bishop takes. Yeah, you have to play bishop takes. So all the pieces come off, it looks like, and black gets some activity. I don't know, I like this position for white. The engine says not much, but I like this for white. Bishop e5 is not a bad move. I will tell you that. It's not what was played, but it's not a bad move. Here's what was played, and it's a great fucking move. The move played was, this never even occurred to me. Bishop f2. When I saw this move, I was like, what the fuck is this move? What is this bullshit? Like, white's not developed, not castled. What is this move doing? What in God's name is this move doing? But there's a very salient point. Remember how I couldn't take on e6 because my bishop was hanging? It's not hanging anymore. And if you want to play this position, good luck. Good luck playing this position as black. I have this threat. I have this threat. Your position is stupid. Like, really stupid. I don't even know what you play. You can't castle. What do you do? You might have to take this, but you don't want to take that. Yeah, your position is stupid in this position. So, after bishop f2, your position is really bad. Because you just can't take this. So black played knight d4, and now white does a little bit of a switcheroo. Bishop d4, protecting e5. Now e5 is stable. Because he can't take with the pawn yet, because of this skewer. So this is such a strange maneuver, but it's so strong. Boom, and then comes right back out. But it's so strong. Takes, takes. This pawn maintains here. This knight can't move. This bishop can't move. This rook can't move. Also, you open the f-file against your own king. Black castles, I mean, what else is he going to do? But you're castling into a death trap here. Bishop d3. It's a disaster. Black takes. I mean, he can't move his pieces. Where does this knight go? Where does this bishop go? Where does this rook go? He can't move his pieces. This is like an Alpha Zero game, where black can't move any of his pieces. So he took this. I think this was sort of desperate. And then he played knight b8. You know, I mean, this is the only move, I think. He has to play knight c6, try and put pressure. Castles. Here, bishop d7 was played. Let me ask, what happens on knight c6? Knight c6 was not played. What does white have here? Of course. When all your pieces point at the king, let's go. Check, 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 check. Note that if the king goes to c7, that's mate. How unfortunate. Check, and you're mated. You lose. GG. So the bishop came to d7 to prevent this variation. So bishop d7, but now we just use brute force. Queen h5 is coming. There it goes. That's a mate threat. g6, I take it. You lose. You lose. Mate threat. I get a check. Look at me. And who can polish up a brilliant game? Who can end the game for whites? Rook f7, of course. A beautiful move. Black resigns. Untouchable, that's mate. But if you don't touch it, I deliver mate on h7. A very, very beautiful game from the white player. This bishop f2 maneuver is so elegant. Just realizing, I really want this pawn to stay here, because all of black's pieces are ridiculous. And you can't really do anything about it. Very, very nice game. All right. We're going to do 3 sort of puzzles about changing the structure and deciding what structural change is best. Oops, sorry. So this is the game Aronian So, which was played recently, actually. It was played in the Singfield Cup, I want to say. So we get some Rogozin with queen a4, misplaces the knight a little bit. I don't know, I always like these positions for black, but white is not, or black, white's not much better. It's an equal position. But Aronian sort of outplays So. We're going to skip ahead. Bishop a6 is a nice move. Yeah, I don't know about this b6. I think So wants to reroute his knight to b7 and to d6. But maybe this knight a5 isn't really the right idea. I guess the knight is hanging and the b pawn is hanging, so b6 is forced, but then I get this move. And yeah, you're going to go knight b7 eventually, but I win at tempo. So white is sort of getting a lot here. White has a nice initiative. Bishop d3, bishop c6, f3, and Wesley So took. And let me ask, what would you take with here? How would you recapture? Which structure do you want? Because these are the critical moments. You can choose to play the structure with doubled pawns and an open f-file, or you can choose to play the structure with a healthy structure. And the bishop on the long diagonal. One vote for open file, fe4. Healthy structure, bishop e4. So Aronian in this game played fe4, and it's very strong. It's very, very strong. And we'll see why. Black actually ends up with a lot of, having to deal with a lot of threats. Queen g5 is totally forced in this position. Otherwise bad things happen to you. For instance, if you go queen h5, I have this very annoying move, queen e7. And I'm just tickling you here. I'm tickling you on this square as well. So you do need to keep an eye on this square. And you hit the e3 pawn, so rook f3. c5, abusing the pin. This is preventing any queen e7 ideas. But now just queen b2. The queen's going to reroute. e5, again, using the pin. Double on the F line. Pressure, pressure. Takes. Takes. And rook b7. But now d5. And the point of this move is to open the queen up. d5 is a little bit sad for your bishop, but white has enough compensation. He doesn't really need the bishop doing much now. Also, the bishop can think about this at some point. Rook c7. h4. Yikes. That's a good move right there. The problem with h4 is it's very hard to maintain contact with this pawn. And even if you do, say you go queen e7, I might be able to do this. And white has 3 pass pawns in the middle of the board. This looks very good for white. Even if his bishop isn't very good, this looks quite good for white. So okay, h4, Wesley took, queen takes. Wesley wants to trade queens. Aronian says no. Wesley gets on the open file, but here Aronian ends the game quite spectacularly. Yeah, d5 is also targeting against the knight. That's a very good point, Adam Skion, because the knight doesn't have the c6 square. Here, Aronian plays a very nice combination, and he's going to really work these pins here. Rook f6. h5, this is semi-forced. The h-pawn is actually hanging because of the pin. But Aronian says, okay, I'll go rook h6 anyway. Queen c3, guarding this pawn. But now I take h5, g6, but the pawn is still pinned. So, Aronian just goes e5. And here Wesley actually resigned. The point being, I don't think this bishop is palatable. If you take the bishop, there should be this move. Takes, check. I can throw this check in. If you go to the back rank, I win both rooks, so you kind of have to go here, but then, like, rook f3, and you're just lost. Everything hangs. So, a really, really nice game for Aronian. We'll do 2 more of these. Black to play is the move f4 a good move? So think about it. Is the move f4 a good move? What do we think about this move f4? Looks decent. Why? So, in this position, f4 is a good move. It's certainly not the only move, but it is a good one. And the point is, after f4, you don't really want to take this, because if you take this, your position isn't very good. Because now this rook comes in with tempo. Maybe I even sack on f3. I have ideas of like queen h4, and this is very, very uncomfortable for white. So after f4, white should not take. Instead, white needs to find a way to get this bishop back to c1, so rook c2. And here, there's two games in the database. One is a win for white and one's a win for black. But this idea of f4 is very nice because it gives black an open line for his rooks. And it also opens up this bishop, creates possibly a target here if black chooses to take. And overall, it's just a nice idea. The problem with doubling first is if you give me enough time, I'll actually be ready for this. Because here I can go bishop c1. And now your f4 loses some sting because you can no longer take with the rook. And if you can't take with the rook, then your position doesn't make that much sense. Good, last one. Oh, that's the end of the game. Where's the position? So, black has sort of a nice initiative on the queen side here. Oh yeah, this is an important moment. After bishop f1, white wants to play f4 against the knight, so black correctly goes knight e5, e4, and here black plays a really strong move. Black goes h5, floating this idea. It's trying to open up this king a little bit. Queen d2, h4. And here white goes queen f4. And this is a very important moment. What would you play as black? I was very happy to say I found this one. This one I did find. How would you continue as black here? This is the last puzzle on the day. What should black play? G5 is interesting. Okay, I will go queen e3. Knight g6 is a bit less wild. Knight g6. Again, I go queen e3. The thing is, you can't, as black, you can't let me play f4. If I play f4, I'm doing very well. Here, I think I'm going to get f4. I don't see how you stop me from playing f4. I think I'm doing well here. So knight g6 is not so good. H takes, if you go h takes here, again, I'm going to get f4, right? So, I'll show the... How are you sacking a pawn? So, I'll show the continuation. It's quite strong. I was happy to find this. G5 is correct. Very good move. Queen e3, only move. Now I take. Queen takes g3. And, very important, I have to stop f4. So queen f6. Note that right now, because of the pin, f4 is threatened. Like, if I play some nonsense move, white goes f4 and has a great position. So queen f6 is very important. No f4. And now black does something very funny, but probably very good. Black just says, hey, I don't like my king on the king side. I'd rather it's on the queen side. Let's go. King's going for a walk. Everything's going to the H file. Check. We'll keep walking. We'll keep walking. Get that king safe. Nice and safe. Tuck him away. I'm going to take your knight. I'm really going to take your knight. That's dangerous. You took my pawn. I don't think you wanted to. That's a check, but I don't care. And you're going to lose. You have to take it. Check. 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 You lose the rook. So, notice that black played very astutely here. He doubled the pawns, and then he tried to open the H-file. Continued to open the H-file. Didn't let white get f4 in. Opened the H-file. Didn't let f4. And then maneuvered his pieces over to the H-file. Very good play from black. Anyway, that's all I have on change of structure. Thank you all for showing up, for listening. I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll be back to stream another day. I'm going to, well, we'll see what happens, because I'm going to be gone for the holidays pretty soon, starting next Friday, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to stream over the holidays. We'll see what happens. Hopefully I can, but I'm not convinced my parents' internet is going to be good enough. But we'll try it. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you all, and I will see you all another day. Adieu.